action games are art. And I'm not talking about the ones that have a little bit of combat here and there that's pretty basic with the main focus being on the story. No, I'm talking about pure action games, or character action games, or hack and slash games. They have a lot of names, you know the ones, where the main focus is on the gameplay and combat with the story feeling kind of like an afterthought for the most part, except for a few exceptions. And these games are a work of art because of the gameplay. Especially the ones that have so much depth that mastering them is one of the most rewarding feelings ever, alongside looking like the most coordinated cinema ever conceived. Being able to genuinely do cooler shit than what the characters do in the cutscenes for the games, which is something you just don't get anymore with how automated a lot of games are now. These types of action games are incredibly rare to come by nowadays, and the very notion of what an action game is has been changing in the public's eyes throughout the years. And the balance between story and gameplay elements has been shifting so much that it's hard to pinpoint what specifically is and what isn't an action game now. I really do feel like the rise of the Souls-like genre and narrative-focused games really swayed the industry away from these action games that are purely gameplay-focused. Which I do get, because I mean, these games are mechanically insane with their complexity, requiring a shit ton of QA testing and mastery of the games. I can imagine they're a ball ache to make, and with how insane game budgets are now, it feels like a lot of developers' priorities have shifted a bit over the past few years to focus more on the story and narrative with simplistic Souls-like gameplay. I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. I mean, I'm a huge From Software shill, but this shift in the industry has really made me miss the 6th and 7th generation, where we had so many pure action games that wanted to do nothing more than give you a fun time with the combat. Even if they were fairly simplistic compared to others, they usually still had more depth than in the games we have today with the whole Souls-inspired combat shit, which usually just boils down to pressing a single button. The shit you're able to pull off in them just looks amazing and reminds me why I enjoy playing games in the first place. We have to thank Devil May Cry 1 for starting all of this.
Let's rock, baby.
Coming out in 2001 and showcasing what could be done with a combat system in a game, giving you a plethora of tools and combos to work with, letting you go absolutely crazy. The more time moved on, the more they developed this formula. Well, apart from the second game, truly finding their footing with the third Devil May Cry. They added things like styles that add even more depth to the combat, letting you perform extra moves and unique abilities. They wanted you to experiment with all of these tools at your disposal. And to do this, the game made enemies deliberately spongy, giving you an incentive to mix and match all your different moves while fighting them. And it rewarded you for doing this by ranking your style grade on the side, which makes a lot of sense because the shit you can pull off really makes you feel stylish, using your enemy as a tool to look cool as fuck. This format that Capcom created was so perfect, the only thing they could really do to expand on it with sequels was by throwing in a new character into the mix, and letting you style switch on the fly, which is such a simple change that makes combat even more in-depth. A lot of these elements are things I've gone into quite a lot in a multitude of videos I've already made on Devil May Cry. But one thing I haven't talked about in them is the fact that unless you're playing on hard or above, Devil May Cry doesn't actually push you to play the game the way it's meant to be played. Of course you're still given all the tools to do so, but you can easily get away with just spamming the same moves over and over again, and the game does not punish you for it. Which is why when someone says they don't like DMC, in my head all I picture is just them spamming Stinger over and over again, waiting for the game to get good. I've always been one for games that punish you into the way it's supposed to be played, like Doom Eternal for example, and even Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, a game by From Software that kinda goes against the whole Souls-like formula, with a heavy focus on parrying and timing. In terms of pure action games though, I think a game that does this perfectly is Ninja Gaiden. Another pure action game that stands up on the pedestal with Devil May Cry. Well, it did before its flop era with shit like Ninja Gaiden 3 and Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z, which we don't really like to talk about.
Shit! the fuck off of me!
Ironically enough, these games follow modern trends we see around now, like forced walking sections and QuickTime events. The original Ninja Gaiden was just as deep as Devil May Cry in terms of the depth of its gameplay and combat. The only difference being, Ninja Gaiden is not afraid to fuck you up for playing it wrong. Just a heads up, I don't own an Xbox, so you're going to be seeing footage from Sigma and the new remake of Ninja Gaiden 2, so I'd like to apologise to Ninja Gaiden purists now before they break into my house and Azuna drop me. In the game, you play as a ninja called Ryu Hayabusa, a stoic man of few words who tends to let his actions speak for him. Ninja Gaiden is one of the only games out there that really makes you feel like a ninja, and that's because of how the game is designed. You're given a huge kit of tools to play around with, like different weaponry and moves, which is pretty standard for the time, you know, Devil May Cry does the same thing. The thing is with Ninja Gaiden though, you have to think like a ninja with your tools. You need to strategize in the moment of what to do and how to counter your enemies by outsmarting them. The thing is, enemies don't wait around for you to sit there and plan out what you're gonna do next.
Oh, fuck.
Even if you cut their leg off beforehand. Oh, you missed me. Oh, you missed me again. I kind of feel bad for this guy. Oh, fuck! Enemies are programmed to fucking destroy you. And if you slip up, they can end things pretty quickly. Are you done? You're basically a glass cannon that constantly needs to be on the move, thinking one step ahead, outsmarting your enemies and punishing them. And just like with Devil May Cry, you feel stylish as fuck when it all comes together and you start pulling this off like it's second nature. Which it does become if you really stick with the game, because unlike DMC, you get your ass handed to you if you even attempt to spam any moves, with some of the more powerful attacks actually leaving you open to enemies if you miss them. I think that's what I miss the most from these types of action games. To do the cool shit, you actually had to earn it. It wasn't as simple as pressing a single button and having a flashy animation play like it is with a lot of games now. Sure, they may look cool in the moment and from an outsider's perspective, but you usually don't feel cool as the player because it doesn't really feel earned. We are so fucking back though, because not too long ago, Ninja Gaiden 4 was announced, and alongside it, they shadow dropped an updated remake of Ninja Gaiden 2 for modern platforms, which is like an in-between of the original Ninja Gaiden 2 and Sigma 2, which if you're outside of the Ninja Gaiden community probably sounds extremely confusing, so let me try and explain it to you. Basically, the original Ninja Gaiden 2 was batshit insane, with the amount of shit it expects you to take on, bombarding you with enemies, making it feel downright comedic at times, with it actually slowing down the console. Sigma 2 tones down the amount of enemies, removes the gore and adds new content that was extremely hit or miss, like a boss fight against the Statue of Liberty. You know, pretty standard stuff. They both are still great in their own rights, and they both share the incredible groundwork of Ninja Gaiden 2. Like I said, the remake is an in-between of both of them. It feels like it's built off the Sigma 2 version, with it having some of the new content that was added in that version, like playing as the characters from Dead or Alive, which I kind of wish they removed, because why would I want to play as these characters when I could be playing as Ryu Hayabusa? They re-added elements they removed from the original Ninja Gaiden 2 in the remake though, such as actual gore and the weapon upgrading system not being free anymore, which made no sense in Sigma 2, whilst also slightly increasing the enemy count during encounters, but not to the deranged degree the original 2 does. Visually though, it's a mixed bag, and that's mainly because it was built on Unreal Engine 5. I don't know what it is about this engine, but I cannot name a single game that runs well on this piece of shit. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely times where the game looks absolutely stunning in all its ray tracing glory, especially the demonic levels. Like near the end, they go all out. But there are a lot of moments where it kind of feels like one of those fan-made Unreal Engine 5 projects. You know, the ones? It's visually inconsistent, but it's still Ninja Gaiden 2 at the end of the day, so it's peak gameplay wise. I fucking love this shit, it feels so refreshing, and I want to go back to this era of action games so bad. Which might be happening, because I mean, Ninja Gaiden 4 is a real thing, and it looks like it's returning to that pure action game formula, which felt like something that would never happen really. The groundwork these two set for what an action game could be, and the art of mastering a combat system, is what makes me respect them the most out of every other action game. With the release of Ninja Gaiden 4 and hopefully a Devil May Cry 6 in the future, which could definitely happen, I mean, they're literally releasing a Netflix show for it, so they haven't forgotten about it. I hope to see a resurgence of more games like this, and it feels like that is actually happening. It feels like the industry is moving away from the whole Souls-like shit, and I couldn't be happier about it. By the way, yes, this video was just an excuse for me to talk about Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry, and also do a little mini review on Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. Oh, and The Evil Within. You thought I wouldn't mention it, did you? I always have to mention The Evil Within in every video, and I've just mentioned it now. Thank you for watching.